Good evening. It's the Bennington Select Board meeting of Monday, July 9th. We're gathered here at the Firehouse. I'm Tom Jacobs and have the pleasure of chairing the meeting tonight. I'd like to have my colleagues introduce themselves, starting with Stu Hurd, our town manager. Maybe coming down this way.
Well, thank you for that.
I figured stay in.
I'm all done.
Yeah.
Who am I? Jean Connor.
Carson Thurber.
I'm Jim Carroll.
Good evening, I'm Donald Campbell.
Hello, I'm Jeannie Jenkins.
Good evening, Chad Gordon.
Nancy Lively, Secretary.
Great. Thank you, one and all. Thank you, Nancy, for all the work that you do. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome.
We start our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Jeannie, would you like to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Jean.
You're welcome.
We have our list there. I think I saw one name already on that for the citizens' comments. We'll get to that in a second. The consent agenda has been circulated as part of our packet. It contains the minutes of the June 25th meeting of the Select Board and the warrants which have been also circulated and reviewed by yours truly and others. Could I get a motion to accept the consent agenda as circulated?
Motion to accept.
Second?
Second.
Oh, good. I appreciate that second. Any comments, discussion on it? If not, signify aye with your yes.
Aye.
No, so we're ready to move. Okay, we've approved that. 7 in favor and no opposition. Our citizens' comment period. I know, did I see Cat TV on there? Would you like to just public service announcement?
Mike Cutler, Cat TV and Bennington. We've been posting for the last couple weeks about our community survey. So it's a chance for people who live in the towns we serve, Bennington, North Bennington, Shaftesbury, Pownell, Woodford, to let us know how we are doing, what we can improve upon, what you'd like to see on the channels, etc., things like that. So we've just been sharing these around town, little postcards. The survey takes about 10 minutes. You can go to our website, catamountaccess.com. For your troubles of 10 minutes, you could be entered to win a 4K TV or a GoPro, so it could be worth it. And this will be going on until probably about Battle Day weekend. We'll probably announce the winners. So got a couple weeks, but keep sharing it, let people know about it. So
No purchases are required.
no purchases are required than your 10 minutes of time.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Again, it's available. Just go on Cat TV and you'll find the site to complete the survey. And you might win. 4K.
Probably not. I've already done the survey, so I'm pretty much thinking the GoPro is practically mine at this point.
Or we accept honorariums. The next topic is Jeff Grimshaw and Chris Sipperly. Jeff and Chris, I'm sorry. I have a feeling I know what this is, or part anyway, because it's on the agenda, isn't it? Stu? Stu, is this on the agenda? Or part of it?
They say this is something different.
Okay, great. You can't hear? Good. Let me know, because I'm, you know what?
Good, wonderful evening to all.
Jeff, please.
All right, Jeff Grimshaw of Bennington of the Vermont Storm.
Chris Hurley of the Storm. Just want to take a minute to kind of thank the town for everything that we've been able to do over the last few months. Last time I was in here was early October. We were looking for a permanent home here in Bennington, and now we have it. With the guided hand of Jim Carroll, we were able to get the job done.
Who was it?
Jim Carroll. We sat down with Stu and his team mid-February. It came together very quickly. Everybody in the room within about 5 minutes really saw that this was a good opportunity for everybody involved. So right from the beginning, the town has been fantastic to work with from every possible standpoint. in that meeting, we made it very clear that we'll be in the position to give back to the town, and we started to do that. For those who haven't seen it, there is a flagpole up there at Willow Park now that was provided by the team. The flag was provided by the team, and the manpower to actually get the pole up was also done by the team. But the town built a very beautiful flower box around that. I don't know if any of you have seen that, but it's very, very nice, and very happy to see that. We're in the process of...
Hey, how about the goalposts?
Yes, yep. The goalposts were something that was put in, 3 weeks ago, I think?
Donated to the town?
Yes, yep, those were fabricated by Patrick Seaver. We made it ourselves, we paid for the materials, we put the materials together. Those double as a field goal / soccer goal.
There you go.
Those will be, they're portable, but they're there permanently in a sense that they're, in essence, property of the town as far as they can be used for anything. The nets are not on those goals yet. However, there are hooks to put the nets on, but we're going to do that this summer. I just wanted to thank everybody for their help. We're finally home, and a token of our gratitude, I want to give this helmet here to the town. And thank you very much for everything that you guys have done.
Stu, you could wear that every day.
There are some days that I need it, Jim, believe me.
Stu, would you accept it on behalf of the town?
I would be glad to.
You guys are working at the Sparks Youth Football Camp next
Yes.
week as well?
Yep.
Yeah, I just kind of, want to talk about how many people have touched the storm and the storm touches back, and that's what partnerships are all about. Chad mentioned Sparks Athletics, which runs football camps in Bennington and Hoosick Falls and Manchester, and we're a part of that. We've worked with the Cancer Crusaders to help them raise money. We've worked with the Vermont Veterans Home, a couple of other charities. We're working very closely with Maya Football. They want to use the field on Saturday mornings for their flag football, and we're happy to, use our paint, use everything that is available down there and coordinate with the town, and I think they're going to do that. And lastly, I just want to talk about the commercial success. The town has embraced us, but so have the businesses, the area businesses. Here's an example, it's just a short list. The Bennington Banner, the Manchester Journal, Carbone Auto Group, Bennington Rescue Squad, the Paradise Inn, JC's Tavern, the Pharmacy, Bennington Maya Football, Southern Vermont Today, Bennington Pizza House, that looks like they're going to be serving some food up there, so get up there for the games, as will JC's. Bennington Cooling and Heating, Uncle Bob Septic, and then there are some New York, Hoosick Falls-based companies, JC's Tractor, and there's another one, isn't there?
Yes, Lumberjacks Coffee.
Lumberjacks Coffee. So, we're bringing them in, and then everything, hopefully everyone who touches us will be benefited, and I know we're being benefited. So we want to just thank everyone. This team has never been in such great shape at this point of the season, and it's because of all of you guys, and we thank you.
Physically too? You're physically ready to take on the season?
I know we were ready about 3 weeks ago when the visiting team's bus broke down, but we're throttling at the mouth.
Yeah, that's good.
It's been a long 6-7 months. So
When's your next game?
Opening game is the 21st of July. Coincidentally enough, the league scheduled the team that we beat for the championship, the Vermont Ravens. So they're going to have to watch while we raise the championship banner. So they're well motivated.
That's good.
Any special ceremonies for the opening game?
I'm sorry?
Ceremonies for the opening day?
Yeah, well, as a matter of fact, yes. We would love to introduce the Bennington Select Board and the town manager and the assistant town manager, and we'd love to have you all as our guests. And we'll get you an invitation and all the ways of means of coming. You don't have to look through the knothole. You can actually get into the game. So more on that, and yeah, we'd love to have you guys at the game.
Great. Thanks very much, guys.
Sure.
And best of luck this year.
thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck, guys. You couldn't get the helmet on, Stu? Just kidding, just kidding.
I wouldn't try.
Well,
I've never touched a football helmet before.
count yourself lucky. Bob, I think you're up. Bob Kabelia.
Tried to play football.
Sure. That'd be great. Thanks, Bob. Whatever.
Oh.
All right, Bob. I'll be glad to.
I think he's part of it.
I appreciate the board's time.
Sure, thank you, Bob. Thanks for coming in.
In a sporting mode, my name's Bob Kubilia. I live out on West Road in Bennington. Been resident of the town since '86. Some sporting news. The town of Bennington has a U.S. Olympic person. My granddaughter made the U.S. Luge D team as a 13-year-old, made the cut. And,
Congratulations.
she was on WBTN radio a couple of weeks ago for an interview, but a lot of people don't know that yet. It's not every day we get people from the town that are participating in that. And this coming up year, she'll have to make a commitment of 8 weeks at Lake Placid. It's quite a commitment. And as Grandpa, I'm going to do what I can to help in that cause. That's a nice segue into why I'm here, which is another thing.
Thanks, Bob, and wish her luck. Maybe we'll have her in. So we can hear
Yeah,
about it
she's
sometime.
been skiing since the age of 2 and has no fear, likes the speed.
I get nervous when I see him on TV.
Yeah, so the luge thing is for special people that, and she's crashed a few times, so
It'd be great, Bob.
we wish her well.
It'd be great, Bob, if you brought her
Yeah,
before
yeah,
us.
yeah.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's up at Lake Champlain getting wet today.
Good.
But other than that, I'd be happy to.
Great, thanks, Bob. And
She's a really
your
good softball
topic
player, too.
tonight?
Yeah, the main topic, the reason I came, is that back in January, there was quite a discussion, for quite some time, about the solar issues affecting the town. And what I did is that I've given you a 2-page email correspondence back and forth that included Catherine Briers from the Regional Planning Commission and her comments that when I approached her during the wintertime, she was somewhat surprised that there was an omission of page 120, from what she had worked on. And that omission affects my land quite big time. I know the board, planning board, and people involved in the planning for the solar were predisposed to not wanting any more development in the rural conservation zone, and that's their right. I think if it was better known, that issue by all of the landowners in the rural zone would have brought you a lot more people than just me in January. And I've had some discussions before the election with a couple of the board members about how we had property rights taken away without compensation. And there's a potential remedy for my parcel if you follow the change of the readings. From the beginning of time until January, I had every right to develop solar on my land within certain property rights that are affected at that time. And in 2014, I had a 4-acre solar field put in that a few people see it, but it's up in my back 40 and very difficult to see, and it's been operating wonderfully. It even makes power because it's a southern exposure on one of those moonlit nights that we call supermoon. You can go by and hear there's a little hum noise when it's making electricity. You can hear the generator. And even on those dark days that we had the supermoons, it was making power. And to me, this is personal. I want to double the size of that field. The infrastructure's there. And I know I have a bunch of hurdles to go through to do that. And on one side of me, I have a former toxic waste site at the former Tanziter plant. I've got a solar field and the infrastructure. And the way Catherine wrote her information to me, that I could continue on with an application as a priority because I'm already affected as a disenfranchised property. So My attempt is not to take a lot of the board's time. I've included Dan's information to me, which didn't address the omission of page 120.
And I guess really without having Catherine comment, because this went through, as you know, an extensive review process on if there was an omission, because she got something before the Planning Commission and the committee that was dealing with this, then I'd certainly like to hear from it. Because if I were to receive this type of communication that you received from her, I would say, well, there was an omission by mistake, and why don't we deal with it? I don't think that was probably the rationale or reason, but I think you're entitled to get from, and the board, some clarity on this, because frankly, it's not clear on the face of the emails themselves, and Dan will have to make arrangements for that to be cleared up.
I'll leave that to the board, and unless you have some special questions for me, the other information that's written is very clear.
Okay. Good.
So does
Thanks.
anybody have questions for me?
Are there other comments from the board members? Did you guys sit on the solar review? I mean,
There's a lot of comments we could make, but it's not an agenda item,
Yeah.
so I'm reluctant to go there.
Yeah, and I'd like to have Dan here as well,
Yeah, let's.
to maybe we could make this an agenda.
I think it basically, because of this uncertainty with this email, if it can be addressed, if not by Dan, by Catherine Byers, and it might have been a misunderstood statement, it may have been very clear, but this looks like we omitted it by inadvertent.
It looks that way from the
and-
email,
yeah.
but remember, she was neither on the committee nor on the board.
Exactly.
So she was advising us.
Yeah.
That's,
Exactly.
yeah.
And if I can interject, since the mic's still hot, if it was purposely omitted and the whole board wasn't aware of that, that would also be a good thing to know. I guess we call that omission by deceit, and I don't want to say much about it, but if that was the
I would
case,
go with the word
it
admitted, but let's not
wouldn't
have
be
this
good.
conversation
Yeah,
now.
I think it's probably, you brought it to our attention, which is perfectly appropriate, and I think it should be dealt with in the proper context, so that there is no misunderstanding relative to the plan.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
To your granddaughter.
Thank you, Bob.
I don't believe there are any other individuals to come before us during the citizens' comment. We're fortunate to have the Rise Vermont presentation from Rory Price. Rory, you came early, so we'll get you out of here early. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
All right, I'll try not to take up too much of your time since it is a nice evening outside. I'm sure you want to get out.
Thank you.
I'm Rory Price. I'm a temporary resident of Bennington, and I say temporary because I'm here for the summer doing an internship in the middle of 2 years of a master's degree program at the School of Public Health at the University of Michigan. So I'm completing an internship sort of in conjunction with Southwestern Vermont Medical Center and the Bennington District Office of the Vermont Department of Health, trying to implement Rise Vermont, which is a new community health initiative that I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk about. So Rise Vermont initially started in the northern portion of the state in Franklin and Grand Isle counties as a grassroots initiative. Started primarily by physicians looking around the community and seeing that childhood obesity was a major issue. They've had some pretty good success in implementing different public health initiatives at different levels in the community. And now One Care Vermont, which is an accountable care organization of which SVMC is a part, sort of adopted it, partnered with Rise Vermont to use that as their primary prevention strategy for public health. So now that Rise Vermont is coming to Bennington and everywhere in Vermont by the end of 2019, I thought it was good to just let you know that this is happening. I'm not here to ask for anything, but just to sort of plant the seed in your head that this is something that a lot of community members are working on. The way that Rise Vermont works is it's a 50-50 partnership between the health system and the district office of the Department of Health in a community. This alone is just a valuable bridge to build. Those two organizations, preventative and curative care, maybe haven't talked as much as they should have in the past, so I think that building that connection is really important in and of itself. Along with that, we have a group of over 21 community stakeholders who have been meeting semi-regularly for the past 2 years. And now that I'm here for the summer and really pushing with 40 hours a week, trying to get things going, I think things are accelerating pretty quickly. So the goal of Rise Vermont is to improve the wellness landscape for all Bennington residents. It's grounded in what's called the EPOD model, which is a French model designed to address childhood obesity. So on your little handout, you can see there's sort of 4 main categories that Rise Vermont seeks to engage. So individuals with show-up events. A show-up event is sort of a free opportunity for people to participate in physical activity or nutrition. So it might look like a free yoga class in a park, like a painting activity in a garden, really anything that gets people outside, moving around, and improves health. And it has to be free and not involve alcohol, so that's all good stuff. Amplification of current events. So Rise Vermont really isn't looking to reinvent the wheel or to step on anyone's toes and replace what anyone's doing in the community. We can look around and see that a lot of people are doing amazing work. So Rise Vermont really just seeks to amplify existing events and opportunities for health in the community. Sort of along with that, we will have $25,000 from One Care Vermont to give out in small grants to the community, hopefully beginning in September-ish. We'll roll out the application for those. We'll also have an opportunity calendar and a healthy waypoint map on our website, which is found at the bottom of your handout, bennington.risevermont.org, so people can kind of take a look and see what's near to them in terms of recreation opportunities. If there's a trail close by that they'd like to use, they can find out, what's the parking situation, are pets allowed, is there a bathroom for their children? So all valuable information to have in one place. For schools and classrooms, we'll pretty much do whatever anyone wants us to do. So whether that's assistance with their wellness policy or going into classrooms to help them with very classroom-specific initiatives, we're willing to do that. Right now we have a request from Monument and Molly Stark to help them to incorporate mindfulness activities into their daily classroom activities to help with different behavioral issues and stress and all of that good stuff. So that's sort of where we're starting with schools. For municipalities, which is maybe what you're most interested in, we're looking to advocate for health supports in the built environment, a focus on parks and rec opportunities, ones that already exist, and then hopefully creating some new structures for that, and a consideration of health in all policies. In the business community, we've had a sort of a preliminary talk with the chamber in terms of helping to support wellness initiatives in the various work sites around Bennington, especially in these small businesses with less than 10 employees who don't have an HR department and maybe have never dreamed of being able to provide a wellness opportunity for their employees, to sort of build a group of small businesses so they can all work on worksite wellness together. So to date, we've convened community stakeholders, and anyone's welcome to attend the meetings. A memorandum of understanding has been signed between One Care Vermont and SVMC. We secured funding for the program manager through SVMC and One Care. They do a sort of a salary split. And through the Magnet Prize at SVMC, we were given funding for our launch, which has been very generous of them. We are taking applications for the program manager position because I'm leaving in August to go back to school. So the position will be vacant, and we hope to get someone in there in August for sort of a warm handoff. And we're planning August as our launch month. So we have a pretty big calendar of activities that will be open and available to the public. I'm finalizing it this week, so then I'll be able to send it out to everyone. And we're just really looking forward to helping this initiative take off. I think it's really important for Bennington, and it can really bring a lot of good change.
This is a real grassroots effort, isn't it?
Right.
With the ACO and One Care. If this is effective, it has a lot of possibility to support health in the state, which is obviously the goal of the ACO. The interest by the hospital certainly indicates that this has real possibilities for the community. I guess the question I had is, like, your internship will end, you hope to have a manager, or they hope to have a manager on board to start coordinating some of these things with the interested stakeholders?
So I'll be leaving in August. I'm trying to kind of pave the way so that once we hire someone, I can do sort of a warm handoff, and there will be continued involvement with the stakeholders. Was that your question?
Yeah, it
Okay.
pretty much is. Yep.
So the program won't die when I leave.
Great.
We're sure on that.
The grant possibilities, is that a $25,000 grant per grant, or is it for?
No, it's a smaller, so we get a full allocation of $25,000 per year from OneCare, and then
Okay.
we divide that out into $1,500 increments or less to give out to community organizations or individuals who are focusing on health and wellness. So it's sort of a micro grant
Okay.
program.
Okay, good. Other members? Jean?
No, it sounds fabulous. But I don't have any specific questions. I just think it's all great.
Thank you.
No comments.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Tell me a little, I'm interested both in those micro grants and what kind of people might be eligible for those, just a little bit more about that. And I'm also interested in the municipalities. It talks about advocacy for health supports, and I'm not exactly sure what those are.
Okay, sure.
So maybe just flesh that out a little bit for me, please.
Sure. So in terms of the grants, really any organization or system or business is allowed to apply as long as their focus is on health and wellness. So it might be, the rec center looking to put up new tennis courts, or, the grant wouldn't necessarily have to pay for the full project. It could be a one-off event that encourages health and wellness that a community organization is hosting. So really anything that can circle back to, being active, having a healthy mindset, eating nutritionally.
Does it have to be a nonprofit or municipality that's applying?
No, I think it can be pretty much anyone, yeah.
I see.
How do they go about making application or finding where those?
So we'll be releasing the application to the public. We were a little nervous, we didn't want to release it with our launch and have people kind of get confused of what the goal of Rise Vermont is, because while we do want to give out money, we don't want to be seen as just a grant-making organization. So we'll release that application in September or October and give a few months for folks to kind of get a hold of it, fill out the application. It's very simple, only like 4 questions. And then we are forming a steering committee who will, it'll have a rep from SVMC, the Department of Health, the program manager, and then 2 community members. And those individuals will be the ones to make the decision on who will be awarded the grants that year.
I would hope the education system would be involved in that dialogue. Gene?
So about health supports, I just wonder a little bit of...
yeah.
I'm sorry, which
In
place were you looking?
advocacy for health supports?
Okay, so I guess by that I would mean increased bike lanes, pedestrian walkways, changes to the environment that make safety sort of the default so that people can make healthy choices in the easiest way possible.
I see. So maybe some of the work we're doing, but taken to a higher level even.
Right.
Yeah. So this program's been in Franklin County for a while, is that what you said?
It has.
And what have been the noticeable outcomes, any? Or is it too soon to really gauge?
So they haven't, in terms of evaluation, it's a little tricky because we are really looking at BMI and obesity data, which is a little hard to gather, especially for children. So they just sort of did their first evaluation of that after 3 full years of programming. I think roughly 41% of elementary school students who were surveyed were overweight or obese. So that's sort of their baseline measurement right now. They wanted to form connections and partnerships in the community before storming into the school and demanding to weigh all the children. I think that's a good plan. So initially we would measure our success by attendance at our show-up events, adoption of scorecards. There are these scorecards that individuals, businesses, schools can use to sort of rate their performance and then to get feedback in terms of how to increase their score. So right now, that's sort of the measurement that they've been using up north, is increase in scorecard levels, increase in the number of work sites who have wellness programs, some of those sort of process measures. And then as time goes on, we'll hopefully be able to venture into more concrete health data.
Yeah, that sounds a little bit more like it might dial into having fun, playing more, eating well, and feeling good.
Right.
You might measure those a little bit better through what you're talking about than through weighing kids in grade school.
Right.
Yeah, great. No, this is very exciting, and I really look forward to seeing how it plays out.
Thank you.
For your efforts.
Yeah, so I'm really happy that you're doing this summer. I went to the stakeholders meeting today, and it was very professional, lots and lots of excitement, and lots of movement forward. So, yeah, I do think there's some opportunities with farms in this area and really doing more food to table, which was certainly discussed, as well as all the other things that you discussed. So there are a whole set of bikes. There are a whole set of bikes that that Rise Vermont has, yes?
Right, so
that may be seen again in the upcoming parade. Is that,
So the Department of Health has applied for a grant and received it to purchase a smoothie bike, which you may have seen at various events, that sort of any community organization can reserve and use. And likewise, we have 15 bikes that anyone can rent, and those are housed at Catamount Connections. So, you know, they're still at Stark Street, so if anyone wants them. So that's our goal going forward, is to sort of build up this toolkit of healthy resources that anyone can access for free. And we are hoping to decorate the bikes and have them in the Battle Day Parade. So if anyone wants to pedal along with us, we'll be there.
Great. It should be fun. Are there opportunities, I'm just thinking senior center because you're sitting right there. If there was a particular type of activity that an organization wanted, that anyone can apply for these grants? Is that,
yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So they could apply for a grant, or they could just ask for our assistance, and we'll help find a way to make it happen.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. As a teacher and coach in this area, I'm just really excited to see what you guys are going to be doing in the schools. And I don't know who was at the if there was anyone from the schools at the stakeholder meeting today, but I'll pass this along to central office, and hopefully our curriculum director and some others can get you in with our PE departments and health department.
That would be perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Look forward to seeing the results. The manager's report.
Yes, thank you. 2 action items tonight. The first is a request for an alcohol waiver from the Storm at Lower Willow for their home games, and I think the dates are listed in the attached report. I think there are 4 home games planned. They will be working with a licensed caterer, JC's Tavern, and as JC's has indicated, they will conform with all state liquor control guidelines. In fact, an area will be cordoned off, and those purchasing beer or wine must remain in that area. This board, not particularly this board, but the select board has waived the alcohol prohibition at Willow Park for such events as the car show in the past. But this is a first for, in a sense, a number of waivers over a particular point of time. In discussing this with my staff, and I have not even indicated this to Jeff or Chris, the chief has requested that should this be granted, that a police presence be required in that area at those times, just to ensure that things don't get out of hand. We think JC's Tavern's a very responsible contractor. We think they'll do a good job, and as they've indicated in their proposal, they will be donating part of the proceeds back to the Storm, and ultimately the Storm has made a commitment, long-term commitment, to give back to the town as well. So I put this before you. It would require a motion on your behalf to waive the prohibition of alcohol consumption for the Storm home games.
I'll entertain a motion to waive the prohibition of alcohol consumption for the Storm home games.
So moved.
Second.
In discussion. I guess that was the first thing I thought. You would probably want some law enforcement as part of the responsibility of the Storm.
Yes,
what would be the cost? What would be the cost of that, and would that come out of the normal patrol, or would the Storm have to absorb
It would
that
more
cost?
than likely end up as a 4120, which is a special contracted amount. The high school uses it for many of their events, where we post the opportunity to work the game. The employees are paid at a specific set amount that is then reimbursed by the organization that benefits by their placement there.
Stu, I received one inquiry from a resident about liability insurance and whether or not it would affect the town's liability insurance. I did speak to Jeff before the meeting, and it sounds like the storm already has liability insurance, and that was a requirement of the agreement, right?
They
So
do,
could you just
yes,
speak
and
to that for a minute,
we are
please?
named as an additional insured. Furthermore, J.C.'s Tavern also has insurance, and they will be providing a certificate of insurance to us that also names us as an additional insured. So that we effectively are protected from liability should anything go awry.
Any further discussion?
I just had one that I like the idea of a police presence being required. Would there be possibly a last call? You know, you wouldn't want people running up to a bar knowing it's going to be closing and ordering 3 drinks. And you could, you know, stay in the cordoned off area and drink them really quickly and then be leaving. To me, I think maybe the service should end, I don't know, a half an hour before the end of the game possibly, or something like that. That's the only thing that I thought of.
What does the NFL use? Third quarter?
It's common practice to get the end of the third quarter.
Yeah.
There you go. Question answered.
Thanks.
You could run the NFL.
I could. I'd probably make a lot more money too.
Or at the end of the 7th inning, whichever comes first.
That's great. Thanks.
Any further discussion or questions?
I guess I'm a little, I like the police presence idea, I don't know the cost, if it'll be a cost benefit for them, you know, if, you know, what J.C.'s is making, what the Storm's gonna have to pay. I mean, if that's what we have to do, we have to do. I know other places have used plain clothes or a security detail. I guess I'm concerned with the extra cost.
Well, these would be uniformed officers. It's a set figure. Off the top of my head, Chad, I can't tell you what it is. But we'd certainly have that all arranged before the game so they understand exactly what their obligation is.
Is that officer or officers?
I heard plural.
That will be, I think that's dependent on
How it goes.
what we foresee. I mean, if the area is relatively small and it's relatively controlled, then we're probably looking at one officer.
From the details that we got, it's going to be confined to the pavilion. That's what the
Well, I don't, I'm not arguing that,
Grimshaw
Jim.
said
Yeah. So, you know,
they're not gonna
it
be
may
wondering
be,
about-
when we first talked about it at staff, the recommendation was an officer. So that, I mean, I'm not gonna hold my chief to a specific that he deems not appropriate. And I think we have to understand that the contractor is legitimate and they are responsible. The folks at the Storm are legitimate and they're responsible. I think we'll do our best to make sure that the cost is not prohibitive.
Thank you.
Okay. Having discussion, all in favor of the waiver, signify by aye.
Aye.
That's 7 in favor and no opposition to the waiver. Continuing, Stu.
Yes, the second action item is a new item. The Bennington Downtown Alliance is requesting permission to close School Street from Main to Pleasant on July 19th from 3:30 p.m. until 10 p.m. for Midnight Madness. They hope to use that area for entertainment and for vendors, which is kind of a new addition to the Midnight Madness experience. We haven't been closing the street for that event, but I can understand the BDA's concern if they're in fact going to introduce entertainment and vendors into a particular small block area. So I would need a motion from the board to allow the closing of that street during that particular period of time.
Motion?
So moved.
Second. Discussion. I think I saw first Friday that there was...
Yeah, they did it First Friday.
And in fact, First Friday, you have allowed it for First Friday.
Right, so it's sort of a...
And it works. It's really nice.
In a sense, it's similar to
Yeah,
what
yeah.
First Friday is, but Midnight Madness falls on a Thursday.
Got it. Okay. Any further discussion? If not, signify by aye.
I think it's a great thing to try. Aye.
7 in favor, no opposition. Okay, Stu?
Just a couple of other points. At one of the recent meetings that was held, there was some question about the citizen survey. It was brought up, and Zirat, and Dan and I are going to be reviewing the last survey and formulating a new citizen survey. The board asked that we do it every other year, and so we'll be ready to do it probably for release late summer into the fall, and then we'll compile those results and release them. Camp Green Mountain opened with on July 2nd.
Stu, just before we leave that, I think the board would like to participate to some degree in that review of that survey.
In the questions themselves?
Yeah, maybe, I don't think we have to have an agenda item discussion. I don't think that's relevant, but maybe a committee of three or something.
We'll send it out to you folks and get your comments.
That's comments sound fine.
Yeah. Good. Thanks, Stu.
As I said, the Camp Green Mountain, which is run by the Berkshire Y, opened with 354 children signed up for this year over the, I think it's a 8-week period.
That's fantastic.
It is fantastic. I don't know how it relates to last year. I didn't get that information, but I thought I'd impart that to you. And for those folks who are in the community have heard about the paving projects for, it's actually Route 9, Route 7, and a portion of 67A. The contractor is Peckham Construction. There was a pre-construction meeting held at the agency's Vermont V-Trans offices on Bowen Road. Paving will begin on the 18th of July. It will begin in North Bennington on Route 67A. Ultimately, they will start in Bennington sometime after July 30th, which was what they promised us. At this point, they have not yet set the schedule. Peckham has just been awarded the bid within the last 2 weeks, and they're looking to set the schedule. They may even be interested in accessing our Depot Street garage for their construction headquarters, which would be a financial benefit to the town. But at this point, those kinds of things, the very specifics are still up in the air. But the public relations officer, Natalie Boyle, who is with a company that the state contracts with, has been going door to door with John Shanahan in the downtown and without John Shanahan, and to every property that's along the paving route, introducing herself, giving everybody contact information, what they should expect, to the extent that we know it now. So the state's way out ahead on this, I think. They're doing a very good job. And as soon as we have very specific schedules, we'll get that out to everyone in the community.
Stu, I just have a question for you. So there are no specific start dates with respect to the area adjacent to Park Lawn and the Deer Park?
That's correct.
Okay, so I want to make clear, these are state roads, they are not town roads. The town is not responsible for them, but we're on top of it.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Wait, did you get the helmet for that one? That's, I think, all I have.
Stu,
I'm sorry, Sheila.
RFPs.
The open house,
RFPs.
Friday.
July 13th, thank you. Town Garage has an open house for July 13th. This is part of the RFP process.
Are you sending out emails? Because I know of a few parties who had no idea that it was happening. They were interested, pardon me? What?
It's right in.
And that went out publicly. The RFP is out. It's on the website.
Okay, but apparently it didn't happen the first time. Pardon me? Okay.
Okay.
Stu, can you go back to PFOA? Did I miss it? We skipped it, right?
Nope, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yep, go ahead.
No, just the
Yep.
PFOA?
Yeah.
Well, there really isn't a lot to announce. If you've been following the road postings every Monday morning in the Banner, most of the streets that are being worked on in the northwesterly corner of Bennington and in North Bennington are now one-lane traffic as opposed to being closed. So we're nearing the end of the route there. Probably October, I think, is the contractual deadline for all of this work. Some may finish sooner. And As to the folks who are on the easterly side of Route 7, the state is continuing to negotiate with St. Cobain. At this point, they have not found a way to an agreement. And as you know, St. Cobain has taken the position that it wasn't us, that there are other sources on the east end of town that could have contributed. The state does not believe that. The state believes that the air movement would indicate that it was ChemFabs that was the main source of PFOA. But if you've been following what's coming with PFOA and PFOS and all of those compounds, there was a conference over in New Hampshire that was attended by David Bond from the Bennington College. This is probably going to be one of the most prevalent compounds in municipal water systems and private wells throughout the United States and probably the world. As it is discovered, it is incredibly pervasive in our world.
Without saying more, I think we were just a test tube, frankly, and it's maybe important that we got ahead of that.
Yes, we're probably on the tip of the iceberg, as they say.
Yeah. One question I have relative to the pocket park on what's the construction process, or when's that going to be commenced? Because
there will be a meeting, I think, either late this week or early next week. We are prepared. The town is ready to do what we have committed to do as far as the land work. It's been a matter of getting the other contractors and the general contractor together to lay out the course of action. So I'm very hopeful that we'll have some really concrete results by the middle of next week, and we may even see the town entering the site and doing the work it needs to do to get it ready.
Right. You're talking about the
339.
336.
336.
336, I'm sorry.
Okay. And how's the Catamount Connection crew doing with the what we used to call the Merchants Park, or what we still may call it?
I haven't had a report from them in a while. I know that the Grow Bennington initiative continues to work hard to raise funds. I can tell you that Xerox pretty positive about the fact that we're going to raise sufficient funds to do the splash pad, the fountain in the park, and as soon as we have a final design in place, we'll be putting it out to the public so they understand what we're hoping to accomplish.
So it's all good? Zero on track? I know if they don't use that money, it goes away,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, they're putting, they've done all their various fundraising campaigns regarding full force. There's actually one fundraising event tomorrow with things, and we're also continuing to work with our budget grants.
Just so the community understands, that's a private fundraising effort that's ongoing, and part of it is Xerox suggests that they have to have the money earmarked and actually spent by a certain period of time. So this is not one that we're going to be looking at for years and waiting.
Well, I think, yeah, we'll probably have that, easily have the money that must be committed by the end of this year.
Yeah.
Committed and more than likely spent.
By December.
Any more questions of Stu on the? Yeah, sorry.
I don't remember the name of the people who were here from the Y, but they were talking about space issues, especially on rainy days. Do you know if they found space that they could use for days like that?
No, I know that we are opening the center a half hour earlier on 2 days a week to accommodate the arrival of the children before the programs begin, just in case of foul weather, but we don't have any additional space other than what is available in the rec center, which is basically, I think, 3 rooms down in the basement that are not the most attractive and most desirable.
354 children?
But they're not all at once.
Oh,
they're scheduled
throughout
throughout the
okay.
8-week period.
That's better. Okay. I was like, wow.
Still,
We would need the middle school.
Yeah, okay.
okay. Anything else on this manager's report? If not, Stu, I guess you're up with the HVAC engineering
Yes.
proposal, which we have in our packet, the HVAC engineering proposal for the work that's being considered for the police station. Stu, probably if you could get into the details of that, because it's
I
only a
would be glad
proposal.
to.
Jim wanted to know about the geothermal, so
Yeah.
maybe just
We'll hold
wait
that
until he gets back
until
on
he
that.
gets back. We went through a very detailed process following the board's concerns that we hadn't vetted every opportunity. Even though my staff tells me they had worked for a couple of years on this thing, but nonetheless, we went back, we developed an RFP working with an engineering firm. That RFP was sent out. 4 firms indicated an interest in bidding on the proposal to improve the HVAC systems at the police department. Ultimately, the RFP required some coordination with Efficiency Vermont. It required a minimum of 5 meetings during the process. It required a design engineer to solicit qualified bidders and contractors with a pre-qualification standard, and was looking for an outline of the schedule for the design and the bidding. We only had 2 responding organizations out of the 4. One actually regrettably missed the deadline for response and apologized because they were very interested at the time. And so you have bid results from 2 organizations, Du Bois & King Engineering and WV Engineering Associates. Du Bois & King is $24,800 for the design bid phase, which is where you design the product, you bid the product, and you review the bids that you receive. For phase 1, which is the oversight, they're at $9,500. For phase 2, which is the main floor oversight, they're at $10,000. The other engineering firm came in substantially lower, $12,700 for the design bid, $3,600 and $3,600 for both phase oversight. The unfortunate part is they did not address some very specific requirements in the RFP. And we wrestled with the fact that they were very competitive price-wise, but we didn't feel it was appropriate to, in a competitive bid process, to go back to them and say, hey, how come you didn't say this or that? So we took the bids on their face. We had our engineering firm review them. You have those comments in your packet as well for the shortcomings of WV Engineering. And so we are here tonight to recommend that the town hire Du Bois & King for the design bid phase at a cost of $24,800. Those funds to come from the Capital Facilities Reserve. This is an appropriate use of the monies in that reserve because it is a capital project within a downtown, town-owned structure. And we would then return to the board with the results of this effort and ultimately a request to move to phase 1. Phase 1 is the basement level changes. Phase 2 is the main floor changes.
Would they be done simultaneous for the most part?
The design will be all-inclusive.
But phase 1 and 2, would they?
But phase 1 and 2 will be done separately. There are the prices or the costs that we originally saw were fairly substantial. And unless there's a great change in that, we would still propose going forward with the phased project. But we'll have that opportunity to review those costs when they are received.
So at this point, your recommendation is Du Bois & King with their proposal for a design bid phase, $24,800.
That's correct.
Can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Maybe you can discuss the geothermal aspects of the...
I'd be glad to. We took a hard look at the geothermal before we even went to the RFP. We talked with, as I've indicated, we talked with the mechanical consultant who is with Advanced Comfort Systems. We talked with the project manager at Williams College, and we also spoke extensively with the folks who oversaw the installation at the health department structure. Their results are laid out here in essentially in an email memorandum. But the problem with geothermal is it does require the drilling of wells to essentially encapsulate and control the water. There are several concerns that arise in the downtown of Bennington. One is the potential contamination of that water under the downtown. Two is the ability to drill and maintain wells outside of the police facility within the parking lot. And ultimately the potential for failure of any one of those wells. And we were told that, in fact, one of the wells at the health department failed initially, and the cost to either bring that back online or drill another well was substantial. So given all of those concerns raised by people in the field about geothermal, in this particular instance, we decided that it was not appropriate.
I appreciate the work that you did on this because I was the one that brought it up initially. And from the documents that you provided, it appears that you and Larry and the rest of our town team did a very thorough job and have satisfied my questions. Pardon me?
You?
Yeah, that too. So thank you for the work that you did, and to Larry as well.
Very good.
And again, this is some historical context, but that system in that facility is so obsolete, out of date, and potentially, I shouldn't say dangerous, but not for a good work environment. And also the issues relative to cost and expense that we experience, whether it's electricity and all those things, to deal with an obsolete system. It may in the long run be beneficial for us to deal with it now.
Yeah, I mean, if you read through the documents that have been provided to us, there are some potentials for some savings on an annual basis with a new system there. And you know, hindsight's a wonderful thing. And when we moved into that facility and retrofitted it for a police facility, there were two instances where we needed to go back to the board for money. And the board at that time, perhaps some of you may recall, was really concerned about the cost that was becoming. And in the end, there was the statement, and I don't know who made it, but not $1 more. And so in order to finish the job, actually, many of the contractors, of the paving contractors and some of the others who were doing exterior work ended up donating some of their cost so that we came in online. And obviously there may have been shortcomings in that process. There may have been decisions made about materials used that were not probably the most advantageous for us.
What's the timeline? I think it's probably there, but when would you expect that?
We would expect the design bid phase to occur over the rest of the summer, perhaps with a bid into late fall or early winter, anticipating that work probably, if in fact is authorized by the board, work would not start probably until, I'm guessing, early January.
Stuart, if you don't mind me pressing on this a little bit, because it's you need to educate us a little bit, I think, on, the two proposals came in so different. One is less than half the price of the other, and it's difficult to ignore that delta. The RFP says the town of Bennington reserves the right to reject any or all proposal, waive any formality or technicalities in the proposal, seek clarification on any proposal, and to select any proposal as may be deemed in the best interest of the town. So I assume we had the ability to ask for more information or to say your application is incomplete or something, and we chose not to do that. So there must be other factors. Do we feel that Du Bois and King is just is there some reason why that you went that direction?
In a bid process, I think if even though you have all of the caveats, you put all of those tools in your basket because you don't know what you're going to be receiving. But Larry and I discussed it at length. Dan, I'm sure, was involved in some of those discussions. We actually went out to local engineers and architects about, is it appropriate to really go back to someone who has failed to give you the information you asked for, even though their price is lower, and say, well, you didn't tell us this. What is this? When you're not doing that with the other people who have bid. And that's part of the box that a competitive process like this puts you in. But I think it would be, we decided it would be unfair to the other bidder who laid out very carefully in their proposal what they intended to do and how they intended to meet the very specific specifications. And this bidder did not.
Are they a good?
We just felt it would it's like two bites at the apple kind of.
So, but Stu, had they, it seems like there were omissions, so could part of the reason that their cost came in so much lower be because they didn't include everything in there that they needed to?
We won't know. Our assumption is that they omitted things that they did not intend to give a high priority to, and therefore their cost was lower. That is the only assumption that you can make, is they did not either see that as a priority or they did not intend to do it.
Have we worked with these folks before?
Not with WV, no.
But we have worked with the
Du
other.
Bois and King has been a long-time engineering firm. They were actually the original designers of our 1980 wastewater treatment facility.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they've been around a long time.
I appreciate your commitment to fairness, and if there's a sort of epitaph for you with the town, it's certainly been fairness. That's really an important thing to you, and I am really thankful for that. But I feel that the RFP process is probably fraught a little bit, but it does feel like something that we do to benefit us, not to benefit contractors so much. And yet I understand we have to be responsible in the way that we make these requests of people if we want to keep having them working with us. So I get your dilemma. It's just
it is a dilemma.
It's twice as expensive.
I'm not sure I appreciate the term
epitaph, but yeah.
Surely. What's your hurry?
I
do know that, we could reject all the bids, and we could ask, them to come in again.
We could go out again.
Yeah.
But, at some point, as a bidder, if you play too loose with the restrictions, you begin to lose credibility. And you may find bidders stepping away and saying, look, I'm not going to put the time and effort into this particular bid because they're not credible.
Yeah, they monkey around with it. I get that.
And we did see the memorandum from Larry in the various areas, and some of them are a little wishy-washy, but the one that sort of stood out to me was the RFP clearly required the design engineer to solicit qualified bidders, including contractor pre-qualifications, as well as preparation of contract documents for a successful low bidder. That was not part of the WV's bid.
No, they literally turned that over to us.
Yeah, see, I mean, that's what you're looking for. That's what, obviously, we're paying Dubon and Trina.
Well, I made the motion to approve this. I am inclined to approve it because I have great faith both in Larry, but also in Jason, Jason Dolomech, who seems to, feel that this is a good, James Secor, sorry, who seems to feel that this is the way to go. But I had to press you on that issue because I don't know enough about RFPs to know. It feels to me like, again, we want this to work out for the town's benefit to the best. And I know you've always got that as your primary lens, so I trust that you've thought all this through, but thank you for going through that with us.
We really did wrestle with whether or not it was appropriate to go back and ask them. I think Tom points out the glaring shortcoming in their proposal, but the other areas that we've pointed out, they just simply didn't address. It's hard to overlook that.
Right. So if we'll never know, as you say, if they threw a slapdash application together, just hoping to throw something at the wall and see if it sticks, we don't probably want them, but we will never know unless. Okay.
Great. Other discussion? Move the question. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
7 in favor, no opposition to the
Thank you
bid.
very much. And now the last, but certainly not least, we have 2 borrowings that we deal with this year, and I will note that, and perhaps you folks have realized this, we've not asked for a tax anticipation borrowing this year because our cash flows. We have not asked for a tax anticipation borrowing this year because our cash flows are such that we are in very, very good shape. So that's a good sign from a financial perspective. Just wanted to point that out.
I think that's very unusual. Because
Well, it is, but Melissa's probably sitting at home saying, "Oh, geez." But anyway, I've done it, and there it is. We have one borrowing, which is it's an annual bond anticipation note for the rec center rehabilitation. It was a $630,000 project that the voters approved some 7 years ago, I believe now. We had hoped that we would be able to pay that off with these annual borrowings because the interest rate is lower than what the bond bank can offer. We now are down to the last 2 years, and I'm asking for your approval to borrow $82,113, some 41,000 of which would be paid off this year, leaving only 1 year to go. So we would pay it off before the 10 years the 10-year window that we have, probably at some substantial savings, giving the difference between the 2%, 2.8% per annum here, and I think it's 4.5 or whatever the bond bank is running these days. So I look for a motion to waive the reading of the resolution, accept the bond anticipation note, and circulate the documents for signature. And there are 3 pages which require your signatures.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none? I'm sorry.
Is there any downside to this, Stuart? I mean, it seems so clear-cut that this is a really good thing to do to save interest. Are there any hidden fees? Are there any?
No. What in this particular case, what you see is what you get.
All right.
It's great.
Take it.
Yeah. That's something about the spread between 2 and 4 plus. It makes me much more interested in doing this.
It is a substantial difference, and there has been. I mean, obviously, this interest rate is probably higher than it was last year because of what we're seeing on the national level, but certainly we have saved substantial dollars by approaching it this way.
Great, thank you.
Any other?
No.
All in favor of the waiving of the reading of the resolution? And that's
question.
Yes.
Who is it up to keep the rec center? So, I mean, it's every been taught in there every 6 weeks. It's been wrapped out. It's been taught and that's disgusting.
Stu's going to deal with that tomorrow.
I can't speak to that. not
You'll-
aware of
you'll
those
address it,
situations,
yeah,
but we have maintenance staff on hand, and if things are down for a couple of days, then it's because we are unable to fix them and we need to bring in contractors. That's all I could say.
All in favor of the resolutions? Signify by aye. 7 in favor, no oppositions.
I will circulate that for signatures. The second is a capital equipment note. This is a borrowing that the state law allows for heavy equipment for highway department uses. As you recall, the board approved and the voters approved the purchase of I believe it's a tandem dump truck in the last budget round. We are allowed to borrow that money under state law. We are looking at a $140,575 borrowing. This is through the People's United Bank. They oversee those loans for us. I think in my memorandum I indicated there were 4 signature pages. There are actually only 2. 3. The 4th was for the treasurer to sign, so that was my trying to get these into the packet and get them out to you. Kind of speed sometimes leads to small errors. But here again, I'm looking for a motion to waive the reading of the resolution, to accept the note, and to circulate the documents for signature.
Motion?
So moved.
Second? Further discussion?
Stuart, why can't we get the 2.85 rate? Is that something that's just for bond anticipation?
In that particular case, yeah, this is a rate that carries over 7 years.
I see.
So the rate would be slightly higher than an annual rate.
I see. So 3.25, the so-called exempt rate, is that a municipality's rate? Is that what that is?
That is generally one that would be offered to a municipality, yes.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the resolution? Signify by aye. 7 in favor, no opposition.
Thank you very much. That is all I have.
We're still circulating these for signature. Why don't I start with Jean, other business?
I just want to apologize to Zerwatt. Last meeting, during other business, I meant to thank you for the Stark Street event. I can't believe I forgot. So I know that's probably why I forgot, because you weren't sitting here. But anyway, the event at Stark Street, the community event you had a few weeks ago, was just phenomenal. So I just wanted to thank you and everyone else who helped put that together. Okay. I feel better now.
Just one thing, to express my gratitude to the folks at St. Peter's Church, and I think other churches and organizations that are feeding kids lunches for free. Some people may not be aware of it, but for any student in Bennington, they're offering free lunches. And what a wonderful, generous thing to do.
No, all set. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, well, I'm just wondering if we can follow up on the rec center, if maintenance
I think
can
it's
go
going to
over
be,
there.
that's
Is that-
tomorrow.
Okay, because I'm just thinking we have
Yeah.
40 kids. If they're evenly divided, we have
Yeah.
45 kids
We need all the
using those
toilets.
restrooms, yes.
Stuart got the nudge.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
I'm just going to jump on what Jim said. There was, I think the banner ran the locations, St. Peter's doing the lunch, but even though school's out of session, the schools are offering breakfast at 8:15, most schools, through the AbbVie Group and the USDA. Also, I have I can email it to you, Stuart, maybe we can put it on the website or on Facebook or something, but Bennington Library is doing it on Fridays. Looks like most area schools, Willowbrook and Applegate Apartments also. So if anyone under the age of 18, it's free lunch, free breakfast, you can stop in.
Thanks, sir. The only thing that I have is, we're working on the new policy, or updated policy, I should say, on bidding and purchasing.
and the committee's going to report back to me as they are able. And we also have a responsibility of looking at our rules of procedure for the Select Board. So what I've circulated is the existing rules, but I'd like for you to take some time in the next week or two to review them, make sure they're consistent with what your expectancies are so that we can have a discussion and update these at appropriate time. Okay? Because, yeah.
No, finish your thought. I have a piece of other business, a thank you that I'd like to offer when you're done.
We'll talk about this when I've got enough information back, and so we can update our rules, procedures, so they reflect what we expect of ourselves and what the community expects of us. Okay. That's all I have.
I want to thank the Bennington Fire Department for last week's Make It Rain events that ran from Sunday afternoon through I think it was Wednesday or Thursday, from 3 to 5 p.m. The fire department set the ladder truck up in the parking lot here and made it rain during probably the hottest time we've had in Bennington in quite some time. And I want to thank them for that. We had queried whether or not we should be thinking about cooling shelters and things like that. And that was the idea they came up with. Why don't we do this? And I think it really worked.
It was a wonderful gesture. And I seem to recollect seeing the videos that there were some 56-year-old children running in and out of the water. But it was a wonderful gesture on the town's part.
And they were smart enough on one day not to have it because of the weather report relative to the thunder and lightning.
It was a nice thing to do.
It was. It's very good. Any other business? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Okay.
Got a question.
Yes. What's your question? This is not citizens' comment, but I'll take it. No.
I found it very strange. You're having a thing for kids and they're pushing air and drinks. That is disgusting.
It's not for children.
Kids will be there.
Yes, there will be. You know, parents take their children into restaurants all the time and might have a glass of beer or wine.
Yeah, but that's not the same thing. This is a town. This town is getting so all you're pushing is drinking. They're on the sidewalks.
Okay.
I have no problem with it. I've seen drinking all my life, and it's not a picnic. And I would hate to see any kids grow up.
Well, you know, if you're seeing drinking on the streets, then we should know about it.
Let's not get into the dialogue. It doesn't.
I have a concern, so why can't I talk about it?
You can certainly talk about it, but frankly, the matter has already been disposed of, and the license has been granted. So that unless there's something further you want to add.
You want people to come in here, and all they're doing is pushing drinking all the time?
No.
It's getting worse and worse here. Why the hell would people want to come in? I would move in here if there was drinking the way that it is here, and it seems to get worse and worse.
Okay.
The town needs money that bad to be involved in something that goes on drinking. I just think it's a sad place to do it.
Okay. Thank you very much for your comments. We're going to adjourn. All in favor, signify by aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.